is the Patriots Prayer Podcast. It's a tremendous show, one of the greatest shows in the history of the world.
This is Bryson Gray, and you are watching the Patriots Prayer.
PPN, you're doing the right thing.
On the Patriots Prayer Network. Thank you all.
Falling, they all say, gather the faithful now and pray. The Patriots Prayer. The Patriots Prayer. All the wicks are trimmed, oil is filled to the brim. Never change it somehow. I'm the radical now. America's falling, they all say. Gather the faithful now and pray. The Patriots.
Good morning, Patriots. Back again with another Patriots Prayer Podcast. In the last hour, you have seen leftists turned into rightists and red pills, and we are going to be changing course now. We have none other than Glenn Baker of the Glenn Baker Band with us here today, and he has an amazing documentary film he made and an unfortunate situation that he's gone through that many Americans have gone through. So we aptly named the podcast title in this one, Take Our Power Back, because we have lost a tremendous amount of our power and our rights. And no one's being held to account, but we're starting to see a change in the tide, hopefully. But we're going to take you through Glenn's experience, and we're going to take you through what we might think we need to do to correct the situation by identifying the problems that currently exist. So I'm going to play a quick little snippet for you, and then I'm going to bring Glenn Baker up here on the screen, and we're going to talk about it. But guys, you're going to love this. Now, I was blessed to be able to see the actual movie prior. I seen it, and I'm telling you guys, I've watched this thing no less than 3 times. And I've only said that about one other documentary that we recently had with Broken Truth and Epidemic of Fraud. So if you haven't seen that one, go see that one too. But this one right here, completely different take, completely different subject, well done, well narrated. The story is told. I mean, it makes me want to go out and make movies. It does. You got to see this, and then we're going to bring Glenn up. And we're going to talk about it. So let's take a look at this real quick. And guys, you're going to love this.
Americans are facing a new normal, one that may include losing their jobs.
But certainly the new normal will be different than the old normal.
But what we do know is this is massively going to change the way that we live our lives.
And the challenge that no matter what the new normal looks like.
But is it also fated to be your future?
I woke up this morning, looked out the door to a country I don't recognize. They put masks on our face to hide our pain, and there's no fire in most people's eyes. We can't go to church to worship God, but we can loot and riot and steal. There's those at the top that are twisting their knobs, and man, it's making me pretty ill. I saw on the TV a group of kids stomping on Old Glory out in the street. They lit her on fire, and it made me pretty mad to see her lying in filth under their feet. Then I paused to remember they may not know any better than to do whatever they see, because they don't know anyone who was raised in a way as someone such as me. No new normal, we gotta take our country back. You can take it or leave it, but it's a matter of fact. There's those on the left and some on the right trying to pull off puppet strings. If they don't stop, it's gonna be a fight, and that's all right with me. There's a war going on that we cannot see, and it's happening all around us. paying people to fight and riot and burn and bringing them in on a big bus. They're destroying our business, threatening our lives, trying to take our liberty. Then the talking heads look us right in the eye and say, that's just the way it's gotta be. No new normal, we gotta take our country back. You can take it or leave it on, but it's a matter of fact. There's those on the left and some on the right trying to pull off puppet strings. If they don't stop, it's gonna be a fight, and that's all right with me. That's all right with me. We were founded on a free land. My God, we have what we have. But the milk and honey is for those willing to fight. For liberty and justice, and all our wives and our kids. My God, we'll fight like they did in 1776. Don't want to put me on your list. No new normal, we gotta take our country back. You can take it or leave it, but it's a matter of fact. There's those on the left and some on the right trying to pull off puppet strings. If they don't stop, it's gonna be a fight, and that's all right with me. That's all right with me. That's all right. That's all right. That's all right. That's all right with me. Come on, boys. Let's go get us some liberty.
And let's bring to the stage Glenn Baker. I just had to smile. You know.
Hey, Eddie, man, how are you doing?
Hey, better than I should be. I tell you that. You know, we just got back from DC, and I'm recovering from the cold. You know, I tried to trick myself into believing that's where I'm from. I can deal with it. I grew up there. You know, you forget it's a whole different ball game. You know, you just show up and you're like, okay, I didn't remember this.
Dude,
This is
I
not
hate
the way I
the
left
weather.
it.
No, I hate the weather. And I'm complaining right now. I got down to 49 degrees in South Florida last night, and I'm freezing.
Yeah.
Can't
I mean,
handle it.
but I would still take the winter over the summer here, though.
Oh, man, not me,
It's
bro.
120 plus degrees here.
Yeah, what part of the world are you in? I've forgotten.
I'm in Vegas.
Oh, yeah. I spent a lot of time in Vegas doing some shows there. August, September, forget about it, brother. 110 at night.
Yeah. And the way people used to, when I grew up, we used to turn our heaters on in our car, go back in the house for 5 minutes and come back out to the car warmed up and ready to go. Here, it's the exact opposite. You turn on your car with a remote with the AC on, and then you go get in it.
But it's a dry heat, they say.
Yeah. I love that saying. It's a dry heat.
It's a dry heat.
Yeah, that's the way they try to justify it. But it trust me, there is some blessings to having some humidity, because with humidity comes a cool breeze.
Yes, that's exactly right, baby.
So I'd rather have a little bit of humidity than this dry heat. But let's talk about no new normal. Sure. And like I said, I seen it no less than 3 times. I absolutely love the movie. I'm telling you, guys, check it out. I don't say this about a lot, and there are some that just grab your attention, but you kept it entertaining. You narrated it. You at one scene, you're in a jail cell, and I'm like, how in the hell did he get a jail cell? And I see the doors. I'm like, that's a real jail cell, right?
Yes, it is.
And you got on the county oranges and the whole bit. So take us through that story. What was the beginnings of, why you made this movie?
Well, what you just showed is actually the music video for No New Normal. And it's really kind of ironic, Eddie. My music career restarted in 2020 after taking 17 years off. But even if I look at it from there to where I am right now, it all aligns. Everything that I've released country music wise is about God and country. So I had done a show with General Flynn about 3 years ago, and we were doing a show for an organization called Soldier Strong, and they were raising money at that point to put an exoskeleton on a paralyzed veteran to let him walk again. And brother, when they wheeled out this Marine on a stage after he'd been paralyzed 7 years before in Afghanistan, and he was able to stand up and walk around, it broke me. I mean, he was talking about he feels like a man again. He can reach the top shelf for his wife. There's going to be a time when, he can walk his daughter down the aisle, and I'm in the corner crying like a baby. And so it inspired me to write a song, and the name of the song is Finish This Fight. It's about two young men that meet standing in line to join the military. They raise their hands, sign the line, jump up on the bus to head to training, and they become best buddies. And, laughing, cussing, talking about the girls they love, the whole thing, and go off to training together, end up becoming battle buddies and make a pact to always be together. And then by the third verse, all hell breaks loose and they're in war. Had a chance to have my son play one of those soldiers. Now, segue, never been more proud in my life. This young man is 34 years old. He's not like his daddy. He doesn't like to talk, doesn't like to be the center of attention, kind of quiet, but did a heck of a job, man. And I was so proud of him. So we built that music video. And while we're there in North Georgia filming that, God just whispered to me, he said, "Boy, I want you to make a movie while you're here." And I said, "What?" He said, "Son, you heard me. Stop back talking to me. Make a movie while I'm here." I said, "Yes, sir." And so on July the 22nd, I'd spoken to the director of the music video and asked him if he'd be interested. And he asked me, "Well, probably, what's the movie about?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "Well, what's the movie title?" I said, "I don't know, man. I just know God told me to do this." And so July the 22nd, we started filming, and we filmed we filmed basically my story, talking about my story, giving him the details of what happened to me in 2017. And then it escalated, and we started bringing other people into the vision. I had a chance to sit down and talk with Colonel Allen West and Chad Prather in Dallas, Texas, and kind of get their insight onto where are we as a country, how did we get here, and what can we do to fix it. Met some other pretty cool people. One of them pretty well, a gentleman named Nate Kane. And I met him because I was interviewing on his show about my music video. And at the end of his show, we stayed on for a few minutes to chat. And he told me a little bit of his story. And I'm like,
it's wild.
Yeah. And actually, we had forgotten we had met each other in Miami at a Reawaken after party and didn't remember it. So, but when he told me his story, I asked him the next day or so if he'd like to be a part of this movie. And he did, of course, say yes. And my gosh, now I introduced him in the movie as the least known American hero that I've ever met in my life.
Very modest guy, but he was put through hell.
Oh, he was.
And they came after his family. He was poisoned.
Yeah.
Not once, but 2 times.
Yeah.
and they're not done with him neither, because I feel very much that what he's going through right now.
Oh, I think it's a part of it as well.
It's all part of it as well. So
yeah. But his faith in God is strong. His attitude is good. Most of the people involved with this movie are going through some stuff right now. I'm going through some stuff. I put everything that I had into this movie, and I have to sell my house right now because I can't afford to keep it. But it's, who cares? It's just a house. At the end of the day, I've started over multiple times. Yeah. So God tells me to do this. He'll provide for it. He always has. So we got a chance to visit with Nate. I brought a gentleman named Lieutenant Colonel Ivan Rakeland on board, and Ivan is just a maniac.
Ivan's a character. I've had
Oh
Ivan.
my gosh.
He's one of those guys, like I told you. I'm usually the one who knows all the connected to who and when and where and how and this law and that law. Ivan trumps me. He's the only one that I've ever had on this show that does trump me. And he is well studied, and that department, what does he call it? Department of
well, he's the Secretary of
Retribution.
Retribution.
Yeah. That's what he's Secretary of Retribution.
Yeah.
That's what he calls himself, the Marauder.
Yeah, Deep State Marauder.
Deep State Marauder.
Yeah.
And he's hey, don't let that size fool you. That guy is ready to go.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He's ready to go.
Flew him down here to Fort Lauderdale for the interview, and he ended up staying here with me at the house for a couple of days and just really got to know him. He's a solid individual, but I've never seen anybody so laser focused.
Yeah.
That's all. He eat, breathes, dreams, and sleeps it.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, take a look at where he's at the last 2 weeks. He's living, well, he lives close to DC anyway, but I think he's bedded down in the Capitol. I don't know that he even leaves at night.
Yeah, I mean, listen, every time there's anything happening in that Capitol, major hearings or whatever, he's sitting right there.
Mm-hmm.
He makes sure he's right there. Yeah. I mean, everyone on here will probably know him as the guy who famously was in the hallway with Hunter Biden after he leaves the courtroom, and he says, "What kind of crack do you smoke, Hunter?" That was Ivan. That's Ivan. Ivan is the one who chased Nancy Pelosi to her car.
Mm-hmm.
He chased her. She ran to her car.
Yeah.
Rather than answer his questions, let's get the hell out of here. This guy knows a little too much.
He does. And we had a great conversation with him and his take on America and how we got here, and what can we do to fix it. And he's obviously doing something, doing a lot. I mean, doing more than most. Had a great conversation with Craig Sawyer, the Saw Man, SEAL Team 6, Veterans for Child Rescue. He is, golly, my gosh, what a gentle giant. I mean, now, when I tell you gentle, he's a great man, got a great heart. But if you are hurting kids, that man will come after you. And I'm glad he's on our side. But again, talking about America, my gosh, I was so brainwashed until 2017. Thought this was the greatest country in the world. We didn't have any big problems. If we did have a problem, somebody else would fix it. I was safe. Oh,
That's the ongoing theme. That's the theme. That's the thing we just got done talking about before I brought you on. And no matter what area of life we're talking about, the number one issue is that Americans believe that someone else will take care of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's just not going to happen. We've got to get up off of our blessed assurance and join this fight, finish this fight. We got Trump in. That's awesome. I wasn't a great big Trump fan before he ran for office in 2015, I guess, 2016.
I mean, we saw him through the eyes of the media and the press, and he was kind of an egomaniac and that sort of thing. And that's how we saw him. We had no idea that he had this kind of fight in him, and learned a lot about his modesty. There's a lot of things about Trump that he did in the background that never advertised. We didn't know that. He had one story that was shared with us was he had a black woman, break into one of his hotel rooms. She worked there, and she went and she stayed in the hotel room. She had nowhere to live. So she would sneak into the hotel room at night. Well, she got caught by security, and they called Donald on the phone and said, "Hey, Mr. Trump, this person's broke into the hotel room, and what do you want us to do? Or kick her out the property, have her arrested? What do you want to do?" He came up to the hotel room, spoke with her, and to this day, she lives in his building. Free dry cleaning, meals. He's taking care of this woman. But that's not the side of Donald Trump they like to talk about.
No. And most people don't know that. I've never heard that because they've not looked.
Yeah, they don't want to. Yeah. When he was friends with Oprah and Hillary and all these guys, they loved him until he came down that escalator.
Yeah. There's an untold amount of people that he's paid their mortgage off when they were hurting. Just quietly done it, didn't make a big deal about it. And people twist it. Well, he's a billionaire. We ought to be doing that. Well, bull. He's made his money. He has no obligation whatsoever to help people, but he does.
No, not at all. And in this country, we really need to stop that whole thing about demonizing people because they do well. Right? I hope one day to do well enough to be, I don't want to be a billionaire. I don't need to be. But I would hope to be one day be well enough to not have to worry about paying the next bill or the next car note or being able, hey, am I going to be able to go on vacation this year or go to the specific place or do this for my wife? I mean, the basics, right?
Right.
And I think that's what most Americans would wish for. And I don't, if you are successful, more power to you. And that's it. But we live in a land where our tax system is progressive and we punish those who do better.
Yeah, I agree.
And they try to, well, rich people are evil automatically. I mean, you will get demonized because you're rich. Like when the LA fires were burning and that sort of thing. And I'm sure there are a lot of people over there that folks don't like. But at the end of the day, most people, they're rich people anyway. Really? They still lost everything they had. They still, they're still a human. It makes no sense to me to hate somebody based on them being successful.
I'm going to give you an answer to me that probably Trump would say himself. And the people that think like that are losers.
Yeah.
They're losers. Here's why I say that. They're jealous of success that somebody else has made, and they got to find something to talk badly about. Well, they probably cheated people to get that, or they're probably liars or thieves.
Yeah. They make a bunch of assumptions.
Maybe they just worked their butts off and were smart about their money. Maybe that's the truth. Now, is there some people that have made a lot of money illegally? Sure. There's a lot that have made it by busting their tails, though.
Yep. And I have to believe that if they had anything legitimate to use against Donald Trump by now, they would have used it.
Absolutely.
There's been nothing legitimate. So, this guy is exactly who he said he is. And I think God had put him here at this point in time for this reason.
Yeah. Well, and Eddie, I've caught some of those same barbs, and I'm pretty certain you probably have too. Since I released this movie about 6 weeks ago, I can't tell you the times I've seen responses. Well, he's probably just releasing that to get rich and famous.
Yeah.
That cracks me up. I have no corporation behind me. I have no studio behind me. I have no sponsor behind me. Everything that we have done, we've done because God said do it, and he provided through me.
Yeah.
And I'm trusting him that he's going to make it all right. And guess what? If I made $1 million off of this thing, what's it to you anyway?
Exactly.
God told me to do this to get the word out there. But here's the great news. 50% of the profit that we make from this movie is going directly to first put an exoskeleton on a paralyzed veteran and let him walk again. And his name, it's not just any veteran. He's got a name. He's a real dude. His name is Joshua Holm. He lives in Mineral Wells, Texas, was wounded in 2003 in Iraq, able to walk for many years with the help of steel braces. And 2 years ago, while working on his ranch that he's developing to help have a place for other soldiers to come heal, he twisted something, snapped in his neck, and he's now paralyzed from the chest down. And so with 50% of every purchase that's made of this movie, it's going to go to put an exoskeleton on him.
So guys, go to finishthisfight.us and you can get a copy of this movie. And it believe me, great piece of work that you guys put together. So finishthisfight.us, Diary of a Pissed Off American Soldier. Couldn't think of a better title myself. That's awesome.
And can we talk a little bit about where that title came from? Is that okay with you?
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's go back to even before 2017. So I grew up in Northeast Oklahoma. I grew up in a Christian conservative household, was working for my dad since I was 8 years old. Really knew what work was because I was stripping down total loss pickup trucks at 8 years old in a body shop. Now, I want to make sure you understand it was a body shop, not a what do they call those? A chop shop, not a chop shop. It was legitimate. I learned how to work young, and man, I just grew up in the church and singing and wrestling and working with dad, and went off, got married real quickly, but joined the Army, went out in 1999, November the 15th, got called up to Desert Storm, and my son was 4 months old. And while I was over there, I found out my wife pregnant with the second one. So I did what I thought was right. I served my country. Would I do it again like that? Nah, probably not. I'd still fight and die for our country and our people. Just not the government, man. At least not the way it is today. Maybe that'll change. Maybe.
I think that's why we had a recruitment crisis.
Oh, 100%, man. When you got a guy wearing a dress in front of officers telling them they got to respond to pronouns, and are you kidding me? A lieutenant colonel in the Space Force telling them they got to,
or the first woman admiral, 4-star woman admiral, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Listen, I love women, and I think there's absolutely men are not above women in abilities and powers, but we're different.
Absolutely.
Different. And women
Thank
do
God.
things that we absolutely, man. I mean, you're kind of cute, but I don't find you that attractive, Eddie, but there's things women can do that we can't. Man, a woman can see things from a different perspective that men just don't have on our radar because we're so logical. And God built us to be a unit, to be together. But I tell you right now, I've seen the results of women in combat. And it's not a good thing. And it's not because some women can't fight. It's because of the roles that take place when you get men and women together. So
exactly, it's harmony. You're in a band, right?
I am.
So imagine if everybody in the band was the drummer. What kind of music would you make? Wouldn't be no music.
No,
wouldn't be no music. And we were at the inauguration. And when we were at the inauguration, there was a moment. And it was one specific moment, and you could tell where everybody's hearts and where everyone's heads were, because the entire place erupted like a volcano when Trump said this. I'm going to show you what he said.
Okay.
Because he said this, and I'm telling you, I was sitting there, was blessed to be able to we went into a private suite, Congressman Hall, and the Trump team hooked us up, and thank you to those guys. And Trump is here a little later today. Actually, he's going to be at the Circa. But this is what he said.
This week, I will also end the government policy of trying to socially engineer race and gender into every aspect of public and private life. We will forge a society that is colorblind and merit-based. As of today, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female.
And you can't hear there because he's in the road. Well, you can see everybody standing up. This was a big moment. But what you can't see is in the Capital One arena on the screens where we were watching it.
Right.
Is it just, oh my God, it was you couldn't hear yourself think.
Yeah.
As soon as he said that, it was just like a bomb exploded. It was crazy.
The camera there was on the politically correct crowd. They're not going to make fools of themselves. People like me don't give a crap, man. When it's good, it's good.
Yeah. And we were sitting there and we were watching it. And when he said that, the first thought that came into my mind as a citizen journalist, as a content creator is, okay, I'm glad the federal government has that position. But what about TikTok? What about YouTube? What about Google? What about, all of these social media platforms? Because day before yesterday, he said that the government is no longer allowed to censor us and say this is or isn't this information, that sort of thing. But is that going to stop the media? Is that going to stop TikTok? I bet you right now, if I were to go on TikTok and create a video that said there are only two genders, I give it 5 minutes before the video is banned. So I want to see Section 230 demolished. And I use that every time I'm in front of a senator, a congressman, or I'm able to talk to a member of the Trump team when I'm filling out they gave us these little cards, Glenn, and they said, what advice would you give the president? And get rid of Section 230. Stop allowing these social media companies and these platforms to tell us what we can and cannot say, or to demonetize us. Listen, we've been at this for 4 years, a little over maybe 4 years, doing the Patriots Prayer Podcast, even before it became the Patriots Prayer Network, and we were as big as we are. But even to this day, I'll go out in the crowds. I go to the Liberty Ball, Starlight Ball, these things. I get recognized. People know who I am. And so they assume that the Patriots Prayer Network is a big network. We're well-to-do. We have a lot of followers and so forth. But what they don't understand is I operate this in the red. This is blood, sweat, and tears out of my pocket.
I get it, baby.
And I have to, for the same reason you had to make your movie.
Yeah.
So we survive based off of the donations and the subscriptions to be able to go and fly out and get hotel rooms at CPAC and to do these things without the people who watch us contributing to what we do on Rumble. You know, if you are on Rumble and you are able to subscribe and donate, please do.
Yeah.
Believe me, we're going to be good stewards of that money. And we use it to put toward the needs of things like this right here. This young man right here, right there, you see, right there. That was the young man who had his face painted half red, half black at that Chiefs game.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
We sent him to the Super Bowl. And our followers and our listeners donated over $13,000 to make that happen.
Wow.
The podcast got saw somewhere around 10.2 or 3 million times, thanks to Colin Rugg and others rebroadcasting that. And it was that moment where you get hooked on doing so. You get addicted to a lot of things in life, right? We're human. We are absolutely addicted to doing good for others. Just like the young gentleman you talked about, you want to see him in that exoskeleton. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, when that young man first, and I almost said boy, he's 41 years old. That's crazy. I'm 57. I can call a 41-year-old a boy, I guess, if I want to. When he first stands up and walks around again, I'm going to be a mess.
Yeah.
Because this is a warrior. He's not just sitting around feeling sorry for himself. He's in a wheelchair working every day to make other people's lives better. Man, if we can do this for him, when we can do this for him, there's no stopping the next thing. And it's not just one. I want to do 100 of these in the next year or two. Can you imagine what it would be like to be able to walk your whole life and all of a sudden that's taken away?
Yeah. Well, I mean, my wife suffered a reaction that she got from we're on YouTube, so I'll be nice. A certain thing that she got. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. And within 2 weeks' time, she was deaf. So imagine hearing your whole life and then needing a cochlear implant in order to hear, and then your insurance company goes, well, that was emergency use authorization, so we're not going to cover it because you took it voluntarily. Well, no, we didn't take it voluntarily. She had to take it in order to go back to work because she works in the medical community. Well, all employment in the United States is voluntary.
Yeah.
Another job. This is what we heard, and it's sad.
Well, Eddie, I can understand it as much or more than most people. So I'm going to continue. So we went to Desert Storm. I was married, had 2 kids, went on with life. Everything was good until about 03, 04, started having some marital problems. And I'd been singing Southern gospel for 10 years out in the churches and the festivals in the Midwest. And at that point, you know, the way I was raised in the Southern Baptist world, whenever you're going through a divorce, you don't continue to stand in front of a pulpit, you know.
That's
and so
right.
I hung up my mic and sold my sound system. Didn't think I'd ever sing again. Ended up in South Florida, and my wife filed for divorce, and I just went with it. And I stayed in South Florida. I've been here since late 2005, with the exception of 2 years. I was in North Carolina from 12 to 14. I had a guy call me and want me to come help him get a launch of a new business that he was partnering with a former pastor, and we were building log homes. And what's really weird, man, is I'm just strangely built, Eddie. I just go all in. And I went up there, gave him 90 days to help him get started. And within 120 days, I owned the company. So I was building log homes for myself and manufacturing logs and doing pretty good. And did that for a couple of years and was getting homesick, wanted to come back to Florida. Had a contractor that ripped me off about $33,000 in logs. And it just gave me an opportunity to say, you know what, this has been fun. I've got the company established. And I went to the former owner, the pastor, and I signed it over to him. He'd already made good money that year, and he was happy to take it back. I gave him 3 clients that I'd gotten pre-approved to build homes, and I walked away and came back to Fort Lauderdale, reestablished my life insurance agency. Actually had a beautiful woman down here calling me back, and women, man, too much power with women. But she was calling me back. We started to reestablish a relationship, and I just went to work. And that was in July of 2014. In July of 2017, I got a knock on my door about 4:30 in the afternoon. I was getting ready to go out and talk to some life insurance clients. I was getting ready to jump through a shower. Nothing on but a pair of shorts and flip-flops. And when I opened the door, there was a SWAT team, 10 cops and a SWAT team. And I'm like laughing a little, like, what can I do for you guys? And they said, well, we had a domestic disturbance report from this address. And I said, well, I live alone. That's kind of hard to imagine unless I was taking a nap and fighting with myself. Long story short on that, they said it happens a lot. Could we just see some ID? And I showed them that. They said, well, we'll ask you a couple questions. Come on out here. We'll get it wrapped up and you go about your day. And the moment I stepped out of the door, I was against a wall and in handcuffs.
So I want to show that portion of your movie, that little clip there, because I want people to see that. And this is what he's talking about. So we're going to show you a quick little sneak peek, if you will, of the movie. And
you got to put the disclosure in there because I'm topless in this scene.
Here you go, guys. Take a look at this. Oops, there we go. I got the sound down.
Take a shower and go out and meet some clients.
You're going to have to go a little farther.
And I hear a knock on
it out for a while.
Okay, how can I help?
Oh, there it is.
And I go and answer. I'm in nothing but a pair of shorts. And there's 10 cops and a SWAT team. And I'm like, okay, how can I help you? They said, well, we just received a domestic disturbance call at this address. And I kind of chuckled. I said, well, man, I live alone, so I'm not sure how that's possible. And he smiled and laughed. He said, man, it happens all the time. Have you got any ID? I'm, yeah, sure. And I reached up here and grabbed it, handed it to him. He looked at it. He said, oh, Mr. Baker. Okay, cool. Why don't you step outside here? We'll get it wrapped up and we can get out of your hair. Okay, no problem. I stepped out the door and was immediately thrown against a wall and handcuffed. And Mr. Baker, you're under arrest. No Miranda. You're just under arrest. Set me down on a bench and I'm kind of chuckling. They're like, what? I said, where's the camera? What do you mean? I've never been in trouble before. What is this about? They said, well, we don't know. It's an out-of-state warrant. And couldn't tell me anything. So I'm taken to Broward County Jail at around 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon on, I don't even remember what day of the week it was. And they put me in a cell that was no bigger than 10 by 10. And a funny story. I mean, well, it wasn't funny at the time, but one of the guys looks at me and said, ain't you the life insurance man? I said, yes, I am. You sold my auntie some life insurance. Come over here, buddy. You'll be right.
That and the look on your face and that and the way that you narrated that is what makes the movie so entertaining. It really does. But
it still cracks me up. Well, and it's
true. Lesson there. Don't step outside.
Don't step outside. Don't even. Well, I don't know. I guess you're probably going to answer the door, and I would probably even still this day. But I ain't stepping outside, and I'm not complying. I don't care how nice they are, because the system is broken. It's broken, Eddie. And there's a good guys that are cops, but they're all trained to just follow orders. there's a few that are smart enough to know that you don't follow an illegal order, just like in the military. There's a few that are smart enough to say, nah, that one ain't legal, buddy. I'm gonna have to back down on that one, but it's few and far between.
Yeah.
So you've got to know your rights. And truthfully, you got to know a phone number, because smartphones have made us stupid. And most people, I guarantee you right now, unless it's a landline that's been there forever, you're not going to know what somebody's cell phone number is. You're going to look in your phone, say, Eddie Smith, dial. I don't know your number. So I was taken to Broward County Jail and processed about 11:30 that night, put in a cell, thrown a 2-inch mattress, put on the floor, tried to sleep. That didn't happen. And the next morning when I was up and around, I probably didn't sleep all night. The first jailer that came by, I asked him, I said, listen, what's going on? And he said, let me look into it. And when he did, he came back and said, this is an out-of-state warrant. There's no bail allowed. And it says something about receiving property under a false pretense. And he couldn't tell me anymore. And he said, don't worry about it. You're going to see a judge today. Well, I didn't see a judge that day. And I didn't know any telephone numbers to be able to make a phone call. You get a call. I didn't know any numbers. And I asked for my phone. They wouldn't let me have the cell phone. They said it takes a court order to get a cell phone. Well, it was 8 days before I saw a judge. And when I finally convinced him to get me a court order, came back, gave him the court order, and they said, well, your phone's dead. We're not going to charge it. They wouldn't even comply with the court order. So, Eddie, I was 23 days in Broward County Jail, not knowing why I'd been arrested, not seeing an attorney, and nobody in my world knew where I was at.
And one of the biggest things that sticks out to me in your story is you said you weren't Mirandized.
Nope, never was. Not until we got to North Carolina and I got in front of a judge. And before I spoke, he gave me the Miranda.
Which is illegal. You're not supposed to be held in custody. As a matter of fact, it's grounds for a mistrial.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But see, again, I'm just I'm a law-abiding citizen. Don't know any better. I thought my government loved me. I was in good shape. I'm a veteran. I fought for this country. This can't happen to me. Well,
Right.
dadgum sure did. And so when I got there and did finally see an attorney, a few days later, they got the discovery. And I didn't know what discovery is, and most of you guys may not either. It's when they bring evidence that the prosecution has supposedly against you.
I wish I didn't.
Yeah. But there was no evidence. There was testimony, and there was a written testimony from the former partner, the pastor, who turns out there was a handwritten receipt in that discovery in his handwriting, and with his home address, a fictitious company name, but his home address on it, for $22,000 against one of the clients that I'd given him. And turns out he'd stolen from them $22,000 7 months after I left the state and told them that I'd done it. And that's what the whole thing was about. And I thought, well, shoot, man, I'm going to get out of here pretty quickly. Eddie, was 51 more days before I got out. And even I got out with an infection I'd caught in that jail a week before that went untreated. I got out on a Thursday, came out in a pair of shorts again, man, nothing else but a pair of shorts and flip-flops.
Yeah, you only get whatever you went in with. That's what you're coming out with.
Yeah.
And sometimes not even that.
Uh-huh. But so I borrowed some money. My sister wired some money. I went over and got that, bought a shirt at the dollar store, jumped up on a train, came back to Fort Lauderdale, where I found I'd lost my home. My car had been repoed. It had been stolen first, but then when it came back, it was repoed. 80% of my life insurance agency was gone because of a financial accusation. And the night after I got home, that infection I'd caught that went untreated went into my right eye and destroyed my cornea. So I'd been able to see all my life, and all of a sudden I was blind in my right eye. Thank God it wasn't both eyes. But I spent a year not really caring whether I lived or died, Eddie. God kept my head above water, kept me in the same apartment that I'd been in before. The landlady was just lovely about it once she figured out what had happened. I owed her like $7,000. She let me stay in the apartment. A lot of my furniture had been stolen, but she let me stay. And I just found a cheap car and tried to go to work. But it was difficult, man, because I hurt all the time. My eye was just draining it was nasty. How do you go out in public and try to do anything looking like you've been run over by a truck, you know?
Yeah.
But I did, kept my head above water, just barely getting by for about a year. And then a buddy of mine was in town working, a buddy from Oklahoma was in town working, got a hold of me and said, I want to take you to dinner. And I'm like, dude, you have no idea. I would go. I would go. And he picked me up and we went to a place on the beach, ordered dinner. And that night there was a live band and they were playing 80s covers. And for the first time in a year, I was laughing and singing and smiling.
Was Glenn you were in the audience singing "Hungry Like the Wolf"? Is that what I'm hearing?
Oh yeah, and just singing my butt off, man. And in the middle of the second set, it was actually Kiss "Want to Rock and Roll All Night," and this little girl, lead singer,
he lives here.
I met Gene in Vegas.
He's turned into a humongous disappointment of a human being after the pandemic.
Yeah, I met him in Vegas. We had dinner and got a picture together 4 years ago. But in the middle of this little Armenian girl came over and handed me her microphone in the middle of that song, and it changed my life forever, Eddie. I just went, oh, there's a microphone in my hand again. And I hadn't sang in 17 years. And God called me back to music that moment. I didn't know what was happening. I just knew something had changed. And that was in 2018, July of 2018. Took me about a year to get my voice back. Took me another year to put a band together. Was ready to go. First concert, March the 27th, 2020. And March the 23rd, 2020, Fort Lauderdale shut down. The pandemic hit full force. And so I lost it all again. Everything I'd worked for. But God uses all that stuff, man. His promise to me while I was in jail was, Glenn, I've got a plan for you. It's to prosper you and not to harm you, a plan for a hope and a future. And he would tell me, son, I'll tell you this. I will take what's meant for bad. I will take what they're trying to use to kill you, and I'm going to use it for your good if you trust me. And he did. And life went on, brother. I ended up in Nashville, writing with some pretty good dudes in Nashville, recording some really good music. I think it's all about God and country. And then he led me to this point where we are where we are today. Got some new music out, finished this fight. You can find that on YouTube. And that morphed into this movie. If you'd have told me 7-8 months ago, Glenn, you're going to film a movie, I'd said, you're out of your dadgum mind. But here we are. And we're on a mission. And I've got joy from the Lord in my heart, my brother. Every day there's a purpose now.
It's wild. And I share a similar, not the same exact, but a similar situation where my freedom was taken from me. And God pretty much essentially, put that same thing in my heart. Hey, whatever they took from you, I'm going to give you that back and more.
Yeah.
But it came with some responsibility, and it came with keeping your promise and all of that. And, for us, it was, for me, it was the podcast, and it was all the things that, people say, when they're in a spot and they're down and they're calling out to the Lord for help. I promise this, I promise that, how those things go. And then, when everything's good, you tend to forget all those promises. Well, I didn't. When I got out, my family and I had completely parted ways. Everything I had lost, and all I had at that point was, about 3 weeks before I got out, Donald Trump was on the TV, and he was at a graduation for this thing called Hope for Prisoners. And it was ran by a man by the name of John Ponder. And John Ponder was pardoned by Trump. Everybody will probably remember he was pardoned at the end of Trump's first term. He had him on stage with Angela Stenick and those guys. And so when I got out, all I had, and I never opened it, was this bag. This is what I walked out of prison with. This bag, all my letters, all my legal work. This is what I had in this clear bag. And I keep it. I keep it right here just to remind myself. And my Bible, though, My Bible is the one I use to this day. And in the back of that Bible, I wrote down what I was going to do. And I did it. I called John, busy as he is. John answers the phone, and I tell him, look, here's my story. And I don't got anything, got no car, no job, no family, nothing at this point. And he said, where are you at? And I tell him, and he said, well, here's where we are. Get down to the program. And so I did that. I got down to the program 1 week later, because Trump had mentioned the name of a company that I really wanted to work for a very long time. Couldn't never get FaceTime.
Right.
And they said, well, this company, they were doing this virtual job fair. It was in the middle of the pandemic. And this company's only hiring for laborers. Are you a laborer? Absolutely not. I tell them. Absolutely not. What do? I try to explain. They just screwed their faces up. They didn't really get it. And so I said, but I only want the one job interview. And they said, well, dude, you just got out of multiple year prison sentence, and you're not going to be an executive at a large construction firm a couple weeks out after you get out of prison. That's just, I think your expectations are a little high.
Right.
And I said, no, just get me FaceTime.
Get back down, boy. Get back down. Why are you standing up?
Exactly. And but I didn't let it deter me. So I went through that job interview, and they asked me, they said, well, how much are you going to make? And I gave them this figure, and they laughed. They literally, yeah, okay. 5 minutes later, I came back. They offered me more, and I got hired for a job that they weren't even hiring for until I asked them for it.
Right.
And everything else just kind of fell in place. And that man that ran that program ended up baptizing me last year in July. And as I went to the inauguration, I didn't know he was there, but on the way back, I ran into him.
Wow.
Right there. And so I felt, like, hey man, this is the guy who gave me my second chance at life.
Yeah.
This is the guy right here, and he deserved all the praise. So I reached in my bag, and we had these commemorative tickets from the inauguration. They gave them away as like keepsakes because we didn't get to use them because they moved everything inside.
Sure.
So
yeah.
They said anybody who wants their ticket can come and get it and keep it. Right. So I think it was like 4 tickets, and I had Donald Trump sign each of the inauguration tickets. And so I saw him at the airport, and I say, I got something for you. And I gave him the signed inauguration ticket from Donald Trump. And it felt great to be able to do something for him after he'd done something for so many people. So many people. The lowest recidivism rate in the entire country out of his program.
Wow.
Less than 5%.
Wow.
When the recidivism rate in this country is upwards of 70%. So he does a lot of good for a lot of people. And so just want to give him a shout out for being who he is and doing what he does, because he had a calling from God, just like you and I, and he followed through on it. And he started the largest anti-recidivism program in the country and the most successful one in the country. And it was backed and endorsed by Donald Trump. And if it wasn't for Donald Trump saying the name of this program, saying the name of that employer, I would not be sitting right here, right now, doing what I'm doing today. I owe that all to Donald Trump and this man.
Well, see, that's amazing. And it's amazing when you can look backwards and see God work. A lot of times we can't look forward and see it, and that's okay because we're not always supposed to be able to. But faith is found in the fire. It's found in the ditches, man. It's found in the hospitals. It's found when there's no hope. If God doesn't do something, it's over. And most people, I think in America, most Christians don't ever let themselves get to that point. We become a country of complacency and comfort.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have no choice. Life just happens. And when that takes place, look to God. It's okay. Look to God. But I think most Christians don't really know what faith is, Eddie. They may know what the Bible says. It says Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. But what it really is, think about the substance, which is tangible, of things hoped for.
Yep.
Evidence, which is physical, of things that is not seen.
That's right.
That's pretty deep.
It is.
That's
It is.
faith.
It is deep. And I can tell you, after what I went through, and I'm sure it's the same story for you. God is real, like this real, maybe even more, right? So to me, I look at Christ and my faith at the whole thing is, there was a verse in the Bible that nailed me because it convicted me, and then I knew what my problem was. It was that epiphany moment. It was in Matthew, and it said, "Those who love their wives and children and more than me are not worthy to be called my disciples." And in that moment, when I read that, I said, "Oh my God, my family has become my idol. I don't feel whole without them." And that shouldn't be the case. And so in that time apart from my wife, I found me. And I found me by finding God. And I was whole. As a man, I was whole. And when I was right, I think God said, "Okay, now I'm going to fix this. You're ready."
Right.
And a year and a half ago, we got remarried, and now we've been together for a total of 31 years.
That's outstanding, man. That's outstanding. I want to encourage your listeners about some things. And God is real. God is way more comfortable in your eternity and your final results than he is in your comfort. We're comfort focused. We see, smell, taste, touch, and hear. That's how we live our life. And if we can't see, smell, taste, touch, or hear it, it's not real. But I'm going to tell you, the spiritual world is much, much more real than the physical that we can see and use our senses with. And God is more caring about your final results. And he will allow us. Now, people say, "Well, God put me through that." No, probably not. He probably didn't. I mean, he's capable of putting us wherever he wants to, but bad stuff, evil doesn't come from him.
No.
There is a prince of this world that still has some power. And the word says we're in this world. We're not of the world. We live in it. Bad things are going to happen. So he allows things that he can take the badness of and mold it. You take an egg and put it in a bowl, and take a cup of flour and put it in a bowl, and take some baking powder and put it in a bowl, and eat those things separately. Ain't no good. But if you put them together with some milk and a little sugar and mix them up and throw them in a pan and stick it in the oven where it gets fired, you bring that sucker out and that's cake, man.
That's right.
So you got to remember, temporary pain is okay if you keep your eyes focused on him, what he said to your heart, and know that it's temporary. And he'll use you. He'll use you if you let him, but he will bless you. When he gets your attention and you learn this lesson and you become more like him, you're going to come through this thing on the other side and be so much better. And I'm thankful for the folks that have gone through that, like you. I'm thankful for people like Nate King that have gone through hell, but are such powerful warriors. For Craig Sawyer, my friend, who is just an amazing, godly man that is still at 62, I think, years old. I wouldn't want to fight him. He's a powerful warrior, man. For Ivan Raiklen. Now, Ivan's a little rusty, I think, spiritually. He's a little on the rough side, but he and I have talked. He knows God, and I think God's working on him.
He builds us all for different purposes.
We all got a different call, man. You ain't got the same call as I do.
Exactly. And Ivan is a warrior.
He is.
Ivan is a warrior.
And, you can say that about Trump. You get the left that are, you got Christians hired a pervert. Shut up, man. Trump has not done anything worse than 98% of anybody that's whining and moaning. If we followed you around with 27 cameras, 24 hours a day, I guarantee you'd be embarrassed.
Yeah.
You'd stumble over your words. You'd say something you shouldn't have said. Come on. Trump is a warrior. Trump is a leader. Trump is for such a time as this.
Yeah, absolutely right.
It's like
And
pandemic.
I personally, I would love to be, one of those guys who runs for office.
Mm-hmm.
They would tear me up.
Mm-hmm.
They would tear me up. They would look at my past and drudge up things that don't even come close to defining who I am. If they did what they did to him, I could only imagine what they would do to someone like me.
I get it, man. But I've learned a lesson through my lifetime, and I'm very transparent. I put all of my pimples and warts out for everybody to see, so it can't ever come back and haunt me. It is what it is, man. You don't get this sexy and not go through heck. I'm 5'4" on a good day, man. About 211 pounds of mean, lean patriot machine, baby. And it just is what it is. And God's got a calling on my life. And I hope you like me. But if you don't, man, that's your problem. It's not my problem.
That's right. That's right. And all too often people say that little tidbit of advice you just gave, but they don't believe it. They just know it's right. And that's the difference between knowledge and wisdom.
Yeah.
Right. You can know something, but wisdom is the application.
Yeah.
Do you know it? Do you know how to apply it to your life? Do you know how to put it into practice? Do you actually live it and believe it and feel it?
Yeah.
I can tell you the stove's hot and you'll know I'm telling the truth, but you won't understand that the stove's hot until you touch it.
That's right, baby. And then you pull back real quick and say, well, why didn't you tell me? But I did tell you.
Yeah. Christopher Titus is a stand-up comedian. And he was talking about the difference between the way dad's parent and mom's parent.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes on about this little scene about his son playing with a penny and he's going to go put it in the light socket. And the mom goes, no, stop. And the dad goes, oh, wait a minute. Go ahead. You won't do that again, will you?
Yeah.
Exactly.
I can guarantee you that's the truth. That happened to my daughter when she was about 2 years old. And she was rambunctious and she knew better. We'd been told her many times, don't do that. She took 2 keys, stuck them in an outlet at the same time, was blown clear across the room. Hands were just black. I thought, oh my gosh, she's been burnt to death. And it was just iodized, right. It was just smoke.
Right.
But she never, ever thought about doing that again.
Yep. Yeah. I have a memory just like that at my own that I did myself, probably about 9 years old, screwing a light bulb in with a wet rag. Never did that again.
Yeah.
Never did that ever again, but we learn and we grow and we take those lessons and we apply them. And that's why parents today, I know you want to keep your kids safe, but you're not doing them any favors by shielding them and sheltering them from life. At times you got to let them live it. And then you have to be there to pick up the pieces. And
there comes a day that they're going to go out on their own, whether you want them to or you don't. You might as well have them a little bit more ready. And honestly, there's nothing you can do to make them completely ready anyway. They're going to have to make their own mistakes. They're going to have to go through their own pain at some point. Right. Might as well get some of that done while they were young. Ain't nothing wrong going around, crawling around and getting dirty.
That's right.
Probably pretty good for you if it came down to it.
That's right. Yeah. It was nothing like coming in the house. You had to come in when the street lights came on when I was coming up. That was the indicator. And if you were too late, God help you. But we used to come in, oh man, dirty face, dirt all over, jeans ruined, chitters on us,
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know what chitters are, we used to run around in the woods and fishing, and we thought we were the baddest hunters around, running through the woods with our 10-pump BB guns, and just anything that moved got it. It didn't matter what it was, but it was fun. And we had, jumped bike ramps, high dived off bridges we did all of this. We drove in the back of pickup trucks, we'd stand up and try to surf in the back of the pickup truck while he's moving. And we did all of those crazy things, every one of them. And all the things that are illegal today. And I tell you what, I think we were better for it.
100%. And really, that's part of this movement that we've started with Finish This Fight. I hope that this movie will inspire people to help try to bring back some of the goodness that we had. We're not trying to bring back all the negative stuff from our past history. Nobody wants the 60s race wars and I'm going to use the word racism that really was there. There's a generation.
Absolutely it was.
There's a generation that's pretty well passing away right now. But in the 50s and 60s, it was pretty common to be racist, and it was almost politically okay. It just what you did, we don't want that. That's not anything what we want.
Well, what they've done is they've taken the lessons from that and they apply it in a way that it shouldn't be. And they have became the racists that they say they're fighting against.
Absolutely.
They're using racism to fight racism. That's like me fighting a house fire with gasoline. It makes no sense at all.
None.
They use things like the 1619 Project and CRT, which tells you are the sum of the color of your skin.
Yeah.
I'm an oppressor. You're oppressed based solely on color. And now they're creating a whole new set of victim class of people because they're passed up for promotions because they're white or they're not a woman or they're not whatever it is that meets the DEI quota of that particular company. And as a result, people work very hard at life because they think their hard work is going to get them somewhere, which what was the civil rights movement was all about. It was like, hey, don't see me for the color of my skin, but the content of my character. Now, those same people in that same political party are saying, see me as whatever color I am first.
Yeah.
And then I'll show you who I am later.
Yeah.
And that's a problem.
The Finish This Fight foundation that I'm building right now, and what we stand for is bringing the goodness, the wholesomeness of America back. I mean, wouldn't it be nice to let your kids play in the front yard and not worry about them being abducted?
Yeah.
Or shot at by somebody driving by. I mean, that'd be a beautiful thing. Well, how do we get there? Well, first of all, we have to come back to God individually and then as a country. What we are facing right now, whether people believe it or want to believe it or not, is the results of evil creeping in. And not only creeping in, now being accepted. Remember the acceptance part. Everybody needs to be accepted. Well, when you accept it, then it becomes normal. And then when it becomes normal, then it becomes celebrated. Evil has been launched and lifted and put on a pedestal. And if you don't agree with it or if you don't celebrate it, you're a bigot. Well, that's right. A bunch of crap, baby. If you're part of the LGBTQ movement, God bless your heart. If that's the way you live and want to live, okay. It's not for me. And I don't think you're truly happy because God's word says that you're not. You're searching for some fulfillment. You're searching for something to be filled up, but that is not going to do it.
Like putting a round peg in a square hole.
Exactly. If that's the way you want to live, okay. Man, I live near a place called Wilton Manor, which I think the number 2 most populated homosexual city in the United States, next to San Francisco. I got no problem with them. I've given guys rides. We've sat down and had dinner. It's not a problem with the people. It's a problem with the push and the elevation and the forcing it into our society and the training our children to be okay with it. just changing civilization.
The problem I have with it is they put it in the middle of the civil rights movement, which says that, folks that wake up with a certain tone of skin, they have no option to be but who they are.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The lie is the same thing that I had Living Life Ministries. One of the guys we had on the show a while back, Maurice and I, and he pastors primarily ex-LGBTQ people in his church. And he was a member of that community, found Christ, and his mission, he believes, is to go find people in that community and pull them out and have them find Christ.
Yeah.
And the lie, as he tells it, is that you don't have a choice. And that's the lie that they tell. You're born that way.
Right.
And so it is not the same as you don't have the same struggles as someone who was born black, or you don't have the same troubles as someone who's a female trying to get into a world where you typically don't fit in. Those civil rights it should not apply. It's not the same fight. It's not the same thing. I believe completely they've bastardized this movement. But you just saw it in the pandemic with Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
And I had a guy does music by the name of Bizzle. Had a great line in one of his songs that says, "Black lives didn't matter until they shook their hands." So it was like all of a sudden the LGBTQ movement and the Black Lives Matter movement did this and then became what it was. And it was a sad day because it was all a great deception.
Right.
It was a great deception.
It 100% was a great deception. So, we're not against homosexuality. We're not against that movement at all. We're against the being pushed on our kids and pushed down our throats. And I can actually combat what you just said there, if it's okay to be a little bit politically.
Go for it.
So they talk about being born that way, and it's not their fault, and just leave them alone. They're going to need to live their life that way. Well, you know what? I was born a male. I was born a boy, and I went through puberty, and I remember 14, 15 years old being so dadgum horny, I didn't know what to do. Well, I was born that way. Did that mean it would be okay for me to just go rape a girl?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was my desire, was to be sexually active.
Well, you can apply to the same thing to drug addicts.
Exactly.
We all have proclivities, drinking, drugs, women, whatever it is. If I'm just going to be naturally who I am to the umpteenth degree without any guardrails, what does that look like?
Exactly.
And now and it's like you said, I'm not, if you choose to be that, I don't hate you. I'm not even going to preach to you or against you or judge you. It's not my place. Now, if you tell me you're a Christian and you're doing that, we got a problem. We're going to have to talk.
Yeah, we're going to have a little guidance. But no, so what I want people to understand, Finish This Fight movement is about not fighting. I mean, we use the word fight. It's not a physical fight. We're in a spiritual battle. We are in a war of the millennium right now. If we were to open our spiritual eyes, if God would open our spiritual eyes, I think if he would open the world's spiritual eyes for even a minute, I think half of the world would fall over in fear.
Yeah.
Die.
You ever seen the movie They Live, Glenn?
Pardon me?
The movie called They Live?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And we actually have a scene in the movie from that movie. Yeah.
They Live. Roddy Piper, rest in peace. That movie was such a great allegorical piece.
Sure.
For exactly what we see happening.
Yeah.
They got those sunglasses from the church. They put them on. Consume, procreate, eat more, do this, do that. I mean, just be primal. There's nothing more than those primal things. There's no spirituality. There's nothing. Yeah. It's materialism and idolatry and feeding that flesh, that nature, meeting a need and chasing pleasure.
Well, and Eddie, where we are right now is not on accident. That's been planned. I remember as a child even hearing the phrase, if it feels good, do it. Do you remember that?
Yep.
That's exactly what you're talking about.
They got the whole thing today, was a while back, had a movement called YOLO. You only live once.
Yep.
Yeah. You only live once. And I mean, the way we grew up in Baltimore City was get what you need to get any way you need to get it. And anyone you hurt in the process, it doesn't matter as long as you're eating, as long as you're good, as long as your family is okay.
Yeah.
Anything done to make that happen is okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And I always knew, I think God was calling me from a young age.
There's no doubt about it.
And because I knew I was different. I was not exactly like everybody else. But I didn't learn that from my parents, to be quite honest. There was a morality and a spirituality about me that was just there. I didn't have to ask for it. Matter of fact, when I finally met God, I hadn't fully read the Bible and studied it. But to be quite honest with you, I was quoting scripture.
Right.
Now, how in the heck could I be quoting scripture from a Bible that I never read?
Because his word is alive and it's powerful and it's sharper than two-edged sword.
Amazing. And I didn't, but it didn't even dawn on me that I was doing that until after someone asked me, he says, so you read the Bible? No. How did I know that? Like, how did I know, this is what Christ said, or how, I didn't know, but he put it in me.
Yeah.
And his word is written on our hearts. And when you know him, when you realize he's real, flesh and bone, he left earth, flesh and bone.
Yep.
And he's real. So if he's real and has the ability to speak to us and speak to our hearts, there's no wonder I knew him well enough to quote him. He had been talking to me. And that's what he will do for each and every person watching this, if you want him to.
Absolutely. And he's just waiting for you to invite him into your life. Take a look at Finish This Fight. Diary of a Pissed Off American Soldier. That's probably not a correct title if I'm in the Southern Baptist Church like I used to be. But you know what? You use that language at home anyway, so who cares? It wouldn't have the same effect if it was Finish This Fight, Diary of a Slightly Aggravated American Soldier. It just wouldn't have the same effect, So I think the title is intriguing enough. People are going to want to watch it. It's $10.99 and you own it forever, guys. I built my own platform, so YouTube can't take it away. Vimeo can't take it away. I'm not using PayPal. They can't take it away. So it's there forever. 50% of the proceeds of the profit of this movie is going to go to help a young man walk again. Good Lord. What would it feel like to know that you contributed to a soldier that paid the price for you to be able to walk again after he was injured 3 times in Iraq? The last time with a mortar that blew him into a bunker. And we're going to help do that. And I'm so thankful that God gave me this call. The hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Like I told you, Eddie, I'm pretty transparent. I took out of my wallet about $100,000 to fund this thing. I don't have anything left. And I'm okay with that. It's not about me. This is about what God did. And this is about getting this young man to get back on his feet. But I tell you that because I don't want to hear any crap from you about, well, you're trying to get rich. This is a sacrifice. This was not in my plan.
It's an offering.
It is an offering. God whispered to do it, and I just said, okay, yes, sir.
Well, let's take a look at a trailer from your movie real quick.
Yeah, absolutely,
I woke up
brother.
this morning and looked out the door to a country I don't recognize. They put masks on our face to hide our pain, and there's no fire in most people's eyes. And it's still true today. It's still true today that they've tried to destroy the American spirit. And in some instances, they've done a dadgum good job. But in other instances, they have lit an inferno in some people. And we right now are gathering some of those people that are on freaking fire to save this country.
Powerful.
You know what? It's a powerful movie. It's not boring. I think you'll find it refreshing for a documentary. I'm not a great big documentary lover. Some of the times I've watched some of them, they just bore me to death. Some of them are really good. This is one that's not normal. It's not a normal documentary. We put some humor in it. We've got some laughter. We've got some interesting dialogue. We've got some really deep stuff. I mean, when you got Craig Sawyer talking about the United States of America being the number one consumer of child, yeah, come on. The country that I love is the number one consumer of hurting little kids.
It's wild because, you know, we as a people with all these social justice warriors out there consistently talking about, well, we were slaves and fighting against that whole dark history that exists in this country, not realizing there are more slaves today than we ever had back then. And most of them are under the age of 15.
Yeah. 335,000 a year on average go missing. And you know, here's the thing. You don't hear about them. Somebody walking up and say, oh, I just found a kid that'd been missing for a month walking down the street. That doesn't happen.
Nope.
When they're gone, they're gone.
So I just interviewed Dr. Juliet Engel, who was a victim of MK Ultra.
Yeah.
She was in the program.
Oh, no, you can't use that word. That's a conspiracy theory, MK Ultra.
MK Ultra was very real.
Yes, sir.
Very, very real. And it was operated by our intelligence agencies, and they used children to honeypot trap dignitaries and powerful people in order to blackmail them. And it's a fact. And she's briefed Congress and Senate and all these people. And it was sad because she's telling me as she's briefing them and telling them these stories, these horrible stories, they were busy doing other things, reading whatever was on their desk.
Sure.
They weren't listening. They weren't listening. And you saw it when The Sound of Freedom came out. Here's a movie against child trafficking with pictures and proof of what happened and who these kids were and the people that actually did it. They were showing the real pictures, not just what was in the movie. If you watched it till the end, they showed you this was real.
Yeah.
The left lost their mind. They didn't want this movie to come out.
They fought it tooth and nail.
Tooth and nail. Why? You know, the only reason I could think of anyone that wouldn't want a movie out there that would spark interest in stopping child sex trafficking are people that want child sex trafficking.
You know, I'm going to tell you right now, thank you, Donald Trump, for being an instigator to exposing corruption. And thank you, Patriots of America, for going out and going to the show, to the theater, and watching that movie.
Yep.
That's a historical change people may not realize. That is a historical change that shifted from Hollywood to independent, patriot-style, God-fearing, truthful movies.
Yes,
it happened right there.
It is. And thank God for people like Elon Musk giving us our freedom of speech back so that we can talk about it. I believe wholeheartedly that without Elon Musk, this election may have looked a lot different.
Yeah.
And without our First Amendment right to be able to express ourselves without the filter of the government that censors in the middle telling us that's misinformation, and all of that sort of jargon. But before we get out of here, because we're about out of time, Glenn, I'm going to give you the floor, and I'm going to put you up here on the big screen and let you give your message, sir.
Man, I've said a mouthful already, and I'm a big old talker. Let me just talk to you, America. Hopefully you don't have to go through anything like what I've gone through, what my friend Nate Kane has gone through, what a lot of people that I know well now have gone through. Hopefully you don't have to lose your freedom. Hopefully you don't have to lose everything you've ever had before you wake up or allow yourself to be awakened up. And not woke, I hate that term, but to become aware of what's really happening around you. Yes, I love my country. Absolutely think God had his hand on this country when it was formed, was guiding our founding fathers to create something to be a light. Do I think we're any more special as people in God's eyes than anybody else? No, I don't. I think he loves us all and wants all of us to have the best. But he did create this country for a purpose. And the challenge with that is it is not what it was meant to be. We have people that are guiding the process and have been for decades that don't have our best interest in mind. They're not godly people. They don't give a crap about you and me. They only care about power, money, and authority. And they've been able to use the systems to keep us busy. You know, I think television was designed to keep us entertained, but to keep us busy in our minds, where we really weren't paying attention to what was going on. I remember many times in my life seeing something like, man, that ain't really right, but I think somebody else will fix that. I don't need to do anything. Well, guys, we are, and gals, we are in a place in history where we have a chance to make a difference. Now, I'm going to encourage you, pay attention to what's going on around you. If it sounds impossible that this has been taking place, at least have an open enough mind to take a look at the evidence that's being presented to you. And it's not going to be easy to find it. Still yet, it's not going to be easy to find it because there's people that don't want you to know it. You know, Trump is releasing the JFK files and the RFK files and the Martin Luther King files. And he's releasing that. I personally know people that were involved with what happened that day, and I know the truth. Judith Daly Baker called me a few weeks ago. She was the lover of the guy that supposedly killed John F. Kennedy.
Lee Harvey Oswald.
She was his lover. And she told me the story and wants me to tell her story. So I think that may be another movie that's coming. But I'm asking you to we're in a place of revival right now. And that means a couple of things. I mean, God wants you. God wants to be with you, wants to be in your heart. We have to come back to God first and foremost individually. And then we have to come back to him as a country. He says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and turn from their wicked ways and seek my face, then will I hear from heaven, will forgive their sins and will heal their land. So we have to make that move if we're going to be successful to bring back the goodness of this country. And I just want you to come on board, baby. It's not, if you can afford to buy this movie, go to finishthisfight.us, hit the contact. It'll go info at finishthisfight.us. It'll come directly to me. I'll send it to you for free. Man, this word needs to get out. Now, dadgummit, if you can afford it, you better spend that $10.99 because I'm going to put that exoskeleton on that young man. But if you're just broke and you can't, I get it. I've got a gentleman that's staying here with me right now that just got home 2 nights ago from being incarcerated for 2 years for January 6th. And all he has in his life are the clothes on his back and the cell phone his kids bought him. So I get it. I've been that broke before. But pay attention. Seek God. If you don't know him, ask him to reveal himself to you, and he will. Let him come to you. You ain't got to change to come to him. He wants you just like you are right now. And then start listening, because there's something that he wants you to do. And when you find it and you go for it, you're going to be more fulfilled and more joyful in your life than you've ever had in your life. So seek God and come on and join this team. We got to finish this fight.
Wow. Great words. And guys, before we get out of here, I'd be remiss not to mention Joe. And we were contacted by some patriots yesterday with a very large following, and they're willing to help. But Joe McCoy is facing an uphill battle to save his home. He did nothing more than support the candidate of his choice, Donald Trump. And you see in that newspaper, he painted Trump on the side of a 52-foot trailer, and his local politicians fined him $500 a day. He was told by the people in his party, keep it up, we got your back. Well, he did keep it up, and there's no one there to have his back. So we have his back, and we've been raising money for Joe and trying to save his home. Our goal is $10,000. So far, we have raised $1,849. Guys, $5 is all it takes from each of you. I think we have about 3,500 people right now live watching. A little more probably on Rumble.
Eddie, you may or may not know this, and the word says, "Don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing." You said $1,800 is what you raised.
$1,849.
If I remember right, I put 100 or 200 into that fund myself, which means I know how much has been raised. Are you kidding me? Y'all, come on! If you don't buy the movie and give it to Joe. $10, $20. Come on, man. This guy took a stand and is getting stamped on right now.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to jump on you there.
No, but it is true. It is a little disheartening to know that everybody in this movement had a reason that they were standing up and they were fighting and they were speaking out. And it could have happened to any one of them. And this is a very easy ask. This is not a very hard ask.
No.
When you have 4,000 and 5,000 member audiences to ask for a simple $5 that could go to save this man's house, and he's an amputee, right? So he can't work. He's retired. He's got one leg, and it's just him and his wife. And his home is what he bought with his retirement. And I'll do anything I can to help save his home. And like I said, we were contacted by some patriots yesterday, and very large creators and people that just wanted to stand behind and help. And I'm going to be talking to them a little later tonight about how we can help. And Steve Stern from the Flag Store, from the election integrity team, reached out and he sent Joe some money directly, and he's getting the word out, guys. So I ask this: if you are in a position where you can help, just share the Give Sing Go. Share it. And it's givesingo.com/save Joe. And you will make a man very happy and keep him in his home. And that's what we want to do. It's what we do is we help people. We have 1 million causes, and I got another one right behind this. And that one's going to blow the socks off people. And I'll be meeting with the legal team tomorrow and the man affected. But it's got all of the elements of a Dateline episode: murder, mob, corruption. It's wild. So look out for that. It's going to be something to see. So we fight the good fight, and we don't choose what truth we tell. We just tell the truth and let the chips fall where they may. So guys, if you can help Joe, please do. And if you can't, just share the Give Sing Go, and you'll make a man very happy and keep him in his home. The left has no problem raising money.
Exactly.
For anything. For anything. It could be for the stupidest things. And next thing you know, one day later, they'll have $1 million. The guy shot the insurance company guy in cold blood on the sidewalk. Yep. A lot of people say, I'm not losing sleep over that guy for various reasons. That may be the case, but that man committed murder in cold blood. Mm-hmm. And within 24 hours, he raised over $1 million.
Yep.
Here's a man who worked his whole life to get a home, lost his leg, and this is all he has. And he stood up to make America great again. And guys, the least we can do is give him $5. So,
brother, I'm going to tell you, money is not the root of all evil. It's the love of money that's the root of all evil. And if people are tired of hearing, well, I sure would like you to give here or give here. You know what? Money is only a tool. And I promise you, there is a spiritual lesson to be learned there. Because the more you hold on to it, the less you're going to have. The more you release into the kingdom and to help people with, the more you're going to be blessed with. And that's just spiritual law. It's just how it works. So quit being so stingy.
Yeah, I used to say you can only keep what you give away. Right? It's right there. It's built into the Lord's Prayer. Yep. Forgive others as you
have forgiven us.
Love others as you love yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That means you don't help anyone to your own detriment, but the love that you give should be equally how much you love yourself. Yep. So if you would do this for you and you would want this for you, do it for someone else.
Sure.
And I guarantee you'll be blessed for doing it. Glenn, thank you so much for coming on. Wait around after this. I want to talk to you. I got something I got something for you. I want to talk to you.
You got it, my man.
Just take a second. So, guys, thank you for joining us on today's episode of the Patriots Prayer Podcast. And as usual, the silent majority, you need to stop being silent and stand your ground, because evil will never retreat willingly. It must be beaten back in every instance. We will see you soon. Have a great day.
This is the Patriots Prayer Podcast. It's a tremendous show, one of the greatest shows in the history of the world.
This is Bryson Gray, and you are watching the Patriots Prayer.
PPN, you're doing the right thing.
On the Patriots Prayer Network. Thank you all.